صادقين.
And if you are in doubt about what we have sent down upon our servant Muhammad, then produce a surah, the like thereof, and call upon your witnesses other than Allah, if you should be truthful.
فإن لم تفعلوا ولن تفعلوا فاتقوا النار التي وقودها الناس والحجارة أعدت للكافرين.
But if you do not, and you will never be able to, then fear the fire, whose fuel is men and stones, prepared for the disbelievers.
وبشر الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أن لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار كلما رزقوا منها من ثمرة رزقا قالوا هذا الذي رزقنا من قبل وأتوا به متشابها ولهم فيها أزواج مطهرة وهم فيها خالدون.
And give good tidings to those who believe and do righteous deeds, that they will have gardens in paradise beneath which rivers flow. Whenever they are provided with a provision of fruit therefrom, they will say, "This is what we were provided with before." And it is given to them in likeness, and they will have therein purified spouses, and they will abide therein eternally.
إن الله لا يستحيي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعوضة فما فوقها فأما الذين آمنوا فيعلمون أنه الحق من ربهم وأما الذين كفروا فيقولون ماذا أراد الله بهذا مثلا يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا وما يضل به إلا الفاسقين.
Indeed, Allah is not timid to present an example, that of a mosquito, or what is smaller than it. And those who have believed know that it is the truth from their Lord. But as for those who disbelieve, they say, "What did Allah intend by this as an example?" He misleads many thereby, and guides many thereby. And He misleads not, except the defiantly disobedient.
الذين ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه ويقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل ويفسدون في الأرض أولئك هم الخاسرون.
Who break the covenant of Allah after contracting it, and sever that which Allah has ordered to be joined and cause corruption on earth. It is those who are the losers.
كيف تكفرون بالله وكنتم أمواتا فأحياكم ثم يميتكم ثم يحييكم ثم إليه ترجعون.
How can you disbelieve in Allah when you were lifeless and He brought you to life? Then He will cause you to die, then He will bring you back to life, and then to Him you will be returned.
هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا ثم استوى إلى السماء فسواهن 7 سماوات وهو بكل شيء عليم.
It is He who created for you all of that which is on the earth. Then He directed Himself to the heaven, His being above all creation, and made them 7 heavens, and He is knowing of all things.
وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون.
And mention, O Muhammad, when your Lord said to the angels, "Indeed, I will make upon the earth a successive authority." They said, "Will you place upon it one who causes corruption therein and sheds blood, while we declare your praise and sanctify you?" Allah said, "Indeed, I know that which you do not know."
وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين.
And he taught Adam the names, all of them. Then he showed them to the angels and said, "Inform me of the names of these, if you are truthful."
قالوا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم.
They said, "Exalted are you. We have no knowledge except what you have taught us. Indeed, it is you who is the knowing, the wise."
قال يا آدم أنبئهم بأسمائهم فلما أنبأهم بأسمائهم قال ألم أقل لكم إني أعلم غيب السماوات والأرض وأعلم ما تبدون وما كنتم تكتمون.
He said, "O Adam, inform them of their names." And when he had informed them of their names, he said, "Did I not tell you that I know the unseen aspects of the heavens and the earth, and I know what you reveal and what you have concealed?"
وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ.
And mention when we said to the angels, "Prostrate before Adam." So they prostrated, except for Iblis. He refused and was arrogant and became of the disbelievers.
وَقُلْنَا يَا آدَمُ اسْكُنْ أَنْتَ وَزَوْجُكَ الْجَنَّةَ وَكُلَا مِنْهَا رَغَدًا حَيْثُ شِئْتُمَا ولا تقربا هذه الشجرة فتكونا من الظالمين.
And we said, "O Adam, dwell, you and your wife, in paradise, and eat therefrom in ease and abundance from whatever you will. But do not approach this tree, lest you be among the wrongdoers."
فأزلهما الشيطان عنها فأخرجهما مما كانا فيه وقلنا اهبطوا بعضكم لبعض عدو ولكم في الأرض مستقر ومتاع إلى حين.
But Satan caused them to slip out of it and removed them from that condition in which they had been. And we said, "Go down, all of you, as enemies to one another, and you will have upon the earth a place of settlement and provision for a time."
فتلقى آدم من ربه كلمات فتاب عليه إنه هو التواب الرحيم.
Then Adam received from his Lord some words, and he accepted his repentance. Indeed, it is he who is the accepting of repentance, the merciful.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفر إنه كان توابا صدق الله العلي العظيم. In the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful, when there comes the help of Allah and the victory, and you see the men entering the religion of Allah in companies, they celebrate the praise of their Lord and ask forgiveness. Surely He is oft returning. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات. اے مومنو جب مجلس شبیر میں آنا، اے مومنو جب مجلس شبیر میں آنا، بچوں کا تمہیں واسطہ یہ بھول نہ جانا، یہ سوچ کے دل کھول کے تم اشک بہانا، مجلس جہاں ہوگی وہاں آتی ہے سکینہ، پانی نہ ملا آج بھی پیاسی ہے سکینہ، پیاسی ہے سکینہ، اللہ کرے آئے کبھی ایسا زمانہ، ہو شام سے زندہ کی طرف آپ کا جانا، پھٹ جائے گا دل دیکھ کے وہ غم کا ٹھکانہ، بے حال ہوئی قبر میں سوتی ہے سکینہ، پانی نہ ملا آج بھی پیاسی ہے سکینہ، پیاسی ہے سکینہ، پیاسی ہے سکینہ، یوں جانب دریا گئے عباس دلاور، اور دریا سے مسقیزہ بھرا ہوا دل مضطر، دریا کی ہر ایک فوج یہ کہتی تھی تڑپ کر، بے حال ہوئی قبر میں سوتی ہے سکینہ، پانی نہ ملا آج بھی پیاسی ہے سکینہ، پیاسی ہے سکینہ، شام آ گئی جب چھانے لگا بن میں اندھیرا، زینب نے کیا بھائی کے لاشے پہ یہ نوحہ، کیا تم نے سکینہ کو کہیں دیکھا ہے بھیا، ہے تیسرا دن ہائے تڑپتی ہے سکینہ، پانی सकीना, प्यासी है सकीना, प्यासी है सकीना। जब 11 मुहर्रम को सुबह शाम सिधारे दरिया की तरफ देख के ज़ैनब ये पुकारी, अब्बास न मर जाए भतीजी ये तुम्हारी, बेहाल हुई गोद में बैठी है सकीना, पानी ना मिला आज भी प्यासी है सकीना, प्यासी है सकीना, प्यासी है सकीना। आंसू अभी बच्ची के नहीं पाए थे थमने, फिर मार दिया दुर्रा किसी अहले सितम ने, सज्जाद को हर गम ये रुलाया इसी गम ने, इस उम्र में ये साख्तियाँ सहती है सकीना, पानी ना मिला आज भी प्यासी है सकीना, प्यासी है सकीना, प्यासी है सकीना।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Adamallah ajurana wa ajurukum bil musabina bil Hussein alayhi salam. The daily Shahr Muharram program at Satu Imam Barga, which will continue till Monday 7th of July, is as follows. From 7:45 p.m. the gates will be open, and from 8:15 p.m. we'll have recitation of the Holy Quran, Marsiya, English lecture by Sheikh Ali Hussein Datu, followed by Matam and ending with Ziyarat. The topic for the majlis will be From Najaf to Karbala, Living the Will of Imam Ali alayhi salam. The daily ladies afternoon program will continue till Tuesday the 8th of July starting at 4 p.m. Ladies are requested to come to the gate after 3:45 p.m. Dear Mu'mineen, I will be going over very important updates, hence I request your undivided attention as I go through each point, as this is in benefit for all Mu'mineen to have a smooth program. The entry into the Imam Barga will only be allowed by presenting your original Emirates ID, and for those on visit visa, a printout of your passport page and visa page for both ladies and gents. Kindly keep these handy upon arrival for smooth and fast entry. Mu'mineen are advised not to bring any parcels or big handbags to the center, and Mu'mineen are interested to contribute for niyaz may contact the management only. Please note that we will not be accepting any form of cooked niyaz. Please do not double park or drop families or block neighbors' gates when parking. The lay-by at the seniors ladies entrance is only for the elderly and physically challenged. Limited parking spaces are available, hence please arrive early, park responsibly, and walk to the Imam Barga. There is a bus shuttle service which will be provided from the GDRFA immigration parking from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the ladies afternoon program, and from 7:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. for the night program. Please note to not assist anyone monetarily within the Imam Barga. Please direct those individuals to the Jamaat office, and in the ladies to the ladies committee. We urge you for your cooperation in order to comply with these directives. And Mu'mineen are also reminded not to congregate around the Imam Barga once the program is over. And please dispose of any trash in the dustbins around the Imam Barga, and do not litter on the streets. We request all Mu'mineen, when you have any tabarruk outside, please don't do any asraf. And any kind of photography and video recording is strictly prohibited. Please note that Ashura Day program will also be advised in due course. And Surah Fatiha and Salat Hadi Mayat is requested for Marhum Muhammad Iqbal Bhai Jafar Ali Kareem, who passed away and was buried in Mombasa today. Marhum was the uncle of Sister Farzana Kareem of Dubai, as well as for Marhum Aga Murtaza Puya, who passed away and was buried in Islamabad today. Marhum was the father of brother Hussein Puya and Sister Amina Puya, and father-in-law of brother Ali Raza Mamdu, all of Dubai. Surah Fatiha is also requested for Kul Marhumin, Mu'mineen Mu'minat. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Can we now please welcome Sheikh Ali Hussein Datu with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Brothers, I've been asked to request you to please move as far forward as possible so that those who are still coming in can find space easily at the back. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا بني إنها إن تك مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأت بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. My respected elders, brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه أفضل الصلاة والسلام. As I mentioned yesterday, we shall begin every discourse with a tradition regarding the virtues either of Imam al-Hussein himself, either his visitation or the upholding of the commemoration that you and I do on a regular basis, especially in the month of Muharram. This particular tradition goes back to the 6th holy Imam mentioned in Kamil al-Ziyarat, where Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam mentions to one of his ashab, he says something quite peculiar, something a bit strange. Even the Sahaba himself is taken aback. Imam says, going for the ziyarah, meaning the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein, he says, going for the ziyarah of Hussein is better than not going. That's accepted. Each and everybody over here has firm belief that the efforts that they put in going for the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein are recorded by the angels from the time that that individual leaves his or her house. That when they go for the ziyarah, it is mentioned that the angels will pray for them. When they return back from the ziyarah, they're given glad tidings. You and I know that this first statement has no issue in terms of us understanding it. that going for the ziyarah of Hussein is better than not going. But then Imam continues and he says, but sometimes not going for the ziyarah is better than going for the ziyarah. So the companion becomes quite bewildered. He says, how is it possible that not going for his ziyarah at times, not all the time, sometimes not going for his ziyarah is actually better than going for his ziyarah? He turns to the Imam and he says, you've broken my back. And this is such a heavy statement. It contradicts what I understand, but because you've said it, I know it has to be true. But I don't understand what you've said. What you've said goes against everything that I've been upholding in my life. How is it possible that sometimes not going for the ziyarah of the Imam is better than actually going? The Imam says, by Allah, when you people go to the graves of your fathers, you are anguished and grieved. That if your father passes away and you go to his grave, that you go to bury him, or after he's been buried you go to visit his grave, you go and your physical state is that of an individual, a man or a woman who is anguished, who is saddened, who is grief-stricken. However, when you go for the ziyarah of Hussein, you carry different types of food with you. And he says, in this instance, when you're going to go for the ziyarah of my grandfather, and your concern is the food that you're going to eat, your concern is to ensure that you take the food that you like. There will be food. You will survive. It's not that you will die. It's not that you won't have food when you reach your destination. You will have. But the fact that you are more engrossed about the taste and the sweetness of the food that you have in your hometown, and you want to carry that with you on this journey, and you want to go to his grave carrying your food so that you have a more comfortable journey in terms of your stomach and return in such a fashion, then the Imam says, then in that case sometimes it might be better not to go for the ziyarah of Hussein. He says, rather when you go to him, you should go in a disheveled state covered in dust. Disheveled means a man who hasn't quite looked after the way in which he looks. He's not too concerned about his clothes being ironed. He's not too concerned about the smell that emanates from his body because of the long journey. He's not worried about the bags under his eyes, the fact that he looks tired when he reaches the grave. Imam is making it very clear that this ziyarah to Imam al-Hussein is not a vacation that you and I have to begin to plan out in our diaries to the extent that we take food with us and different types of luxuries. Rather, we should go to his ziyarah in the same way, or rather with more grief than we would go to the graveyards of our own parents. Understanding this hadith, we can realize that the Imam wants from us that when we do go for the ziyarah of his grandfather, the sixth Imam wants from us that when we do go for the ziyarah of his grandfather, it should not be like any other ziyarah. Tomorrow I will mention, inshallah, a different tradition indicating that whenever we go for any ziyarah, one of the acts that we are told is not an established mustahab act, but something we should do desiring the nearness of Allah, is when we arrive at the vicinity, then we do ghusl and then we go for the ziyarah. But on the initial visitation of Imam al-Hussein specifically, and only for Imam al-Hussein, there's a slightly different etiquette that seems to have been emphasized in the ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdalus salati wassalam. We began our discourse yesterday by saying that we're now going to enter into this will of Imam Ali alayhi salam, in which he gives pieces of advice, a lengthy will to his son Imam al-Hasan. We know very well, as I mentioned yesterday, there are different wills from the Imam. There are different pieces of advice from the Imam. On his deathbed is one of the most famous ones, that as he's about to pass away in his final moments, he gives a short few pieces of advice to his children who are around his deathbed. But this particular one was given to Imam al-Hasan, it seems, after the battle of Siffin. As I begin, I want to ask a rhetorical question. I want to ask you whether or not you've written your will. I want to ask whether or not you've spent time in penning down the final piece of paper that you want your children to hold in front of their eyes after they've buried you. That piece of paper that might be in your cupboard, it might be under your pillow, it might be in your sajjada. Have you written it? And if you have written it, then have you written a will that is similar to the will of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam? Or have you and I only done the bare necessities of our will, where we've only written how many prayers I have outstanding that I want my eldest son to pray in, how many fasts I didn't complete in this short life that I have. Normally before people go for Hajj, they begin to panic a little. And they say, I better go, when I'm going for Hajj, everything is now set in place, but I haven't written my will. Or somebody goes for Ziyarat and say, now it's the time for me to begin to write a will. Somebody has a heart attack, God forbid. You'll see this individual going to hospital in extreme agony and pain, finally going through his rehab, coming back. And as he or she sits at home, looking out of the window because they can't do anything else whilst they're recovering, the thoughts begin to go through their mind that now age has caught up to me. Now my body is beginning to give up on me. Different limbs and different parts and organs within my body are indicating to me that my time is coming close. And so he begins to think about reality. He thinks about the years that have gone by, the unknown number of days that might remain for him. On one hand, he thinks about the lifestyle changes that he has to do to try and increase his life, but the one thought that he cannot escape is the thought of death. It's not possible that he sits there and he doesn't think about the fact that a time will come sooner rather than later where he will die and his children will have to bury him. Rasulullah mentions that when I eat food and I take a morsel in my hand, when I put it in my mouth, I'm not certain that I'll be able to swallow it. That's how certain I am that death is staring me in the face, and how certain I am that I don't know when my final death will come across me. That you and I sit here today, but nobody knows whether or not they shall wake up tomorrow. Each and every one of us who have partaken in the ghusl or the dafn of an individual, you'll know very well that sometimes this body that you're washing seems like a body that has been unscathed. There is no wound on this body. It's not a body of an old individual. It's a young man. It might be a young woman. And as you begin to do the ghusl of this individual, you realize that this death that God has talked to us about time and time again in the Quran, numerous ahadith from different individuals from the Ahlul Bayt, the Immaculate Imams, you realize that this is staring me in the face, and it has no terms and conditions. It comes to the youngest and it comes to the oldest. Whenever I speak about death, I remember that when I held my firstborn child in my own hands, and I'm sure you've experienced this the first time. The first time you hold your child in your own two hands, it's an experience that you can't put into words. That now God has blessed you with a child. You have become a father, you have become a mother. You have responsibilities on your shoulders that you never had before. Before you got married, you never had to think about another individual, now you do. Now that you're a parent, you're extremely responsible. Because everything this child will do for the next 10 years or so of their life, the decade that is about to come, will be dictated by you. You will tell the child what clothes to wear. You will give the name to the child. What greater responsibility and privilege is there? What greater authority is there that a man can actually name somebody else and say, I will name you with this name? I have that responsibility. God has tasked me as a father with three things as you. The first is to give this child a good name. The second is to teach the child the Quran. And thirdly will be to facilitate for his marriage. That's my responsibility as a father. The mother will have her responsibilities, but these are mine as a father. But the one thing you can't escape as you hold this young child in your hand, this baby that just about fits in two hands that you can probably hold in just one palm of your hand as well, is that as soon as he's born, I don't know if he can see. Because the midwives say that it'll take a few days and then we'll do a test. I don't know if this child can hear. Because the same midwives that were there during his birth will tell me that there's fluid stuck in his ear and we can't tell whether he can hear or not. Give us a few days and we'll come back. I don't know whether or not he has the ability to intellectualize and rationalize, to think. Can he conceive? Can he ponder? I don't know whether his intellect is sound and sane. I don't know if he can touch or is he numb. But there's only one certainty that I have as I hold this child in my hand. That in the same way that God created this child, I am absolutely certain that despite the 9 months and the pangs of labor that his mother had to go through, I'm certain that a day will come that this very child will die. And if he's blessed by God, then he will be buried. And as for many, some, they pass away without even a burial. As this individual contemplates that death is staring me in front of my eyes, when he begins to write his will, you tell me, does he write about his property? Is that the first thing that comes to his mind? Does he write about how much wealth and gloat to his family, how much wealth I was able to accumulate? Does he begin to write an autobiography of all the great blessings that God gave him and the doors that were open and the extremely hard work that he had to go through when he migrated from one land to the other? Does he write that? Or are the thoughts that come through his mind the thoughts that are going to assist him in the next life? Does he first and foremost think about the debts that are on his shoulders? Because he realizes if he gloats about the amount of money that he's accumulated, that won't help him in the grave. But if he writes about the debts that he has and who he has to pay back, then that will bring salvation to him at a time when nothing else can assist him. Does he talk about the friends that he's made, or does he talk about the enmity that he's created? Does he write and tell his children, please ask forgiveness from my brother because I haven't spoken to him in years? Why is he a coward that he wants to seek forgiveness after he dies? Why doesn't he have the courage to be able to extend his hand whilst he's alive, to build bridges whilst he's alive? This same individual is the same individual who, when he was getting married, he wanted to get married in accordance with how the Ahlul Bayt got married. You and I, when God opens that blessing of marriage, don't we say we want our marriages to happen in the same way that Imam Ali got married? Don't we say that the khutbah that he recited, I want that recited on my marriage? The sigha and the aqd and the contract formulas that he recited, I want that recited for mine. Doesn't the fiancé and the spouse mention that she wants to split her dowry in the same way as Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam split her dowry? She says that each and every one of us want to follow them in their footsteps, then why not in our preparation for death as well? When it comes to the will of Imam Ali alayhi salam, he doesn't gloat about his accomplishments at the beginning. You will notice in stark contrast that when Muawiyah writes his will to Yazid, he begins by speaking about his accomplishments and what he's been able to do for his son Yazid. Whereas Imam Ali alayhi salam speaks about a very different reality. I'm going to ask you, especially if you're parents, I'm going to ask you to do something tonight if you can. And I tell you, if you haven't done this before, it will jolt you and hopefully awaken each and every one of us. We begin our new year, as it's called, the new advent of the new Hijri calendar. We don't celebrate it, but we commemorate it. We start off by reminding one another about reform. إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي. This was the statement that Imam al-Hussein made as he was leaving Mecca. That I am leaving not for war. إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ, I am most certainly leaving لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ, to seek reform فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي, in the ummah of my grandfather. People have left this religion. Like the fourth holy Imam says when he was circumambulating the Kaaba, and people say, oh, Imam, can you see how much rush there is today around the Kaaba? That when your grandfather used to do tawaf, he could do it on a camel. He could walk around with ease. He could go to the Hajar al-Aswad. He could touch it. Today, how blessed are we that the number of Muslims that there are, you can't even move around the Kaaba with ease. Don't these same Imams tell us, As-surah, suratul insan, wal-qalb, qalbul haywan. But if you could see them, if only you could see the crowd that is gathered even around the house of God, you would see that yes, they're fully grown men. Yes, they look like fully grown women. But that's not what God looks at. God doesn't look at their physique. Allah makes it very clear through the words of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرْ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ بَلْ يَنْظُرْ إِلَى قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُمْ. God doesn't look at your face. He doesn't look at your creation, your external physique. He doesn't look at that. He looks at your heart and your actions. If you could see what we could see, you will realize why we say that there needs to be reform in the ummah of my grandfather. Because their tongues are with us. But soon you shall see that their swords are against us. Brothers and sisters, especially you who have been blessed with children, I ask you to do this tonight before you go to sleep. Not as a couple, don't do it together as husband and wife, do it separately. Fathers, you do it, mothers, you do it as well. Before you sleep tonight, whether it's on your phone, but I'd recommend that you write it with your own handwriting, because that will have a different effect, not only on you, on the one who reads it as well. Imagine you only have 3 paragraphs to write a will, and that's it. Leave aside the fiqh. The fiqh is something you have to do. It's incumbent. You must strive to ensure that you give either wasiyah, at least by speech, but try and write it down, how many qada you have, how much you have to give to this person, the forgiveness from that individual. That's fiqh, because that's sharia, that's what God can hold you on the day of judgment with. Leave that aside. I'm sure all of us have done that. If not, that needs to take priority. But tonight, with a piece of paper and a pen, imagine you only have 3 paragraphs to write to your children, and that's it. What do you write? Watch how you'll stop, because you won't know what to write, especially when you only have a few paragraphs left. Then you do the exercise later on and add pages to it if you want. I want you to start this piece of paper in this fashion. If you have 3 children, start in this way. Dear Muhammad, Ali and Fatima, now that you have buried me, and then continue that sentence. This is the paper that when your children bury you and they come back home, and when they're lamenting and they're crying and they're remembering what you did for them and the sacrifices that you made, and they remember your speech and they long to have embraced you, because now he became a fully grown man, he hardly used to embrace his father. But give him one more chance and now he'll kiss his forehead. This same young boy, young girl who comes back home after burying his mother will be in tears asking God that if only I can hear her ask me for one thing one more time, I will rush. Let her call my phone one more time. I'll pick it up instead of putting it on silent, even if I'm in the midst of a meeting. I'll do it, but I just want to hear her voice one more time. He's certain it's not going to come back, but what he can have is a will from that father who strove hard to upbring him in accordance with the path of the Ahlul Bayt. What he can have are 3 final paragraphs from a mother who upheld the principles of the Qur'an in her household. You write 3 paragraphs, and I guarantee you that tomorrow I'll tell you what you didn't write about. I don't know what you will write about, but I can guarantee that I can tell you what you won't write about. Because if you only have a limitation in what you can write, all of a sudden what is superficial is thrown aside and what is reality comes to surface. I remember conducting this exercise in small workshops and retreats. There was one man who couldn't write. He started and then he just left the room. He said, I can't do this. He said, it's too difficult for me to write. How can I imagine a time when I'm not going to be there for my children? What do I say to them? What do I finally leave them with? Have you noticed how many a times we have fallen prey, you and I who sit here, we have fallen prey to this system around us that has made us think that the end goal in this life is occupation, is the work that you and I do from 9 to 5. How many times have you and I asked our children when they're young, what do you want to become when you're older? It's a very strange question. Because the answer I'm demanding from my son continuously, he's 10, I'm asking him, what do you want to do when you're older? He's 15. I'm reminding him, don't forget that question. That needs to be at the forefront of your eyes. What do you want to do when you're older? This is what your father has left in his heart. An uneasiness, unsettlement within my heart is, I don't know what you want in your life. Tell me what you want when you want to become older. I've put money behind your education. I put money behind your health. I made you a man. Now tell me what you want to become when you're older. And I'm expecting an occupation in return. That when he turns around and tells me, Dad, I want to become a neurosurgeon, all of a sudden my heart is settled. That's the end of his life. I realize that this is a child who finally has flourished. Or if he says, Dad, I want to become a doctor, or she says, I want to become a businesswoman, all of a sudden I feel some sort of tranquility within my heart. That now I've brought them up correctly, they have clear vision and clear sight as to what they want to do when they're older. You know how contradictory that is to how the Imams brought up their children? Do you find any hadith, you've read a hadith, you've heard majalis, you've listened to them as well. You've read the Qur'an, you've heard even advice from prophets to their children in the Qur'an. Do you find any prophet in the Qur'an, any great lady mentioned in the Qur'an, any Imam speaking to their child, asking them, what occupation do you want when you're older? Have you heard that discussion ongoing? But I'll tell you what you do here. That when Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam is about to have a child, when he's about to have a child, he raises his hands and he speaks to God. He tells God what he wants from this child. Now if that's what he's going to tell God, that's what I want from this child, then obviously when this child grows up, he's going to tell the child that this is what I expect from you. This is why I put effort behind your education. This is why I fed you. This is why I went out to earn a halal income, to feed your stomach with halal so that you could become this. He turns to Allah and he says, oh Allah, Ma sa'altu Rabbi, he tells us, I did not ask Allah for children who had beautiful faces or a good stature and physique. That's not the goal. That can be a byproduct, but that wasn't the goal. That's not what I raised my hands for. I want this color eyes and this color skin. That's not what he says. He says, I asked Allah for a child who would have the fear of God in his heart, so that a day would come when I would see him from a distance worshipping God, and that would bring tranquility to my eyes as a father. Find Amirul Mu'mineen is not a man who dictates to his child that this is the occupation. If you told me something less than a doctor, I would feel as if I was a failure as a father. If you told me you wanted another type of occupation that in our society is not looked upon with good eyes, is seen as a basic occupation, seen as something that you will struggle with, you'll be hand to mouth, I'll feel as if I failed. Obviously, you encourage your children to study hard. Obviously, you encourage your children to have the best of occupations so that they can free their own time and do that which they want to do in life. You tell them to get an occupation that will not only help them, but help others as well. You tell them, most importantly, that whatever you do in life to bring in an income, make sure not one dirham that enters into this house would be haram, because if you bring in haram, you will only sow haram as well. But he says, oh, what I want from my child is that my child should grow up to be God conscious. Imagine you asked your child, what do you want to be when you become older? And he says, I want to be a man who never goes against the law of Allah. That's what I want. You would probably say, I would probably say, that okay, all of us want to do that, but what do you really want to become when you grow older? That's not the real answer. I was looking for something a bit more. Is that not the real answer? That you and I want to bring up children who, when they pass away, when they open our wills, that they don't just see financial advice. They don't just get told there's this bank account that you didn't know about, and this is where the account number is. Speak to my accountant, he'll give you access to it. Is that all 80 years of my father's life did for him? That after 80 years of living in this dunya, what he parted to me on a piece of paper that I will treasure for the end of my life, that I'll read his handwriting. When I want to remember him, I'll open it. All I'll see is that I had this money and that, and this property and that. That's it. There's nothing more. Look at how the prophets in the Quran speak to their children. I take the example of Luqman. Luqman begins, Ya bunayya, my dear son, my dear child. إنها إن تك مثقال حبة من خردل. This is the verse that we began with. My son, if there was your action, even if it was the weight of a mustard seed. When you read something in the Quran like this, it's a bit odd. Why does Luqman speak about a mustard seed? It's one of the smallest seeds that has the greatest potential. If you go home and you look at the image of a mustard tree, you see that it's this great tree. And then you look at a mustard seed, and you'll see that even in a gram of mustard seeds, you need 50 or 60 of these small seeds even to equate to a gram. Interestingly enough, Isa alayhi salam mentions very similar in the Bible. When he talks about faith, he even talks about and gives the analogy of a mustard seed. Luqman turns to his son, he says, Oh my son, in taku mithqala habbatin min khardalin. Your act, any act that you did, right or wrong, if it was the weight of a mustard seed, fatakun fi sakhratin, and it was hidden within a rock, or fi samawat or fil ard, and this was hidden in the heavens or in the earth, yati biha Allah, God will bring it forth on the day of judgment. What's he telling his son? Oh my son, when you're crossing the road and you're driving the car, when you're going to university, and if your eyes get strained to that which is haram, yes, you think only you saw it. Even that individual doesn't know that you looked upon them. But realize that that has been recorded and God will bring it forth. Oh my son, when somebody was begging and somebody was asking and somebody was in need from your own family, when they came and asked you and you shunned them away and you turned your cheek to them, oh my son, it was just an act of turning your face. Nobody else saw. The one in need saw that he came to ask you and you turned away. The one in need saw that when he extended his hand, you shook it with one hand. But when the wealthy came, you shook it with two hands. He noticed. Why does this same Amirul Mu'mineen say, stay away from the gatherings where only the rich are invited? Because it brings about a class system in society. This is Luqman telling his son, the wise man. Realize that even the weight of a mustard seed, God will bring it forth. For those of you who know Arabic, you'll have noticed something strange. I touch upon it, and maybe we can discuss it if it occurs again. Look at what Luqman says very strangely. Ya bunayya, he says, in taku. What you're expecting if you've studied modern standard Arabic is that he would say in takun, or at least in takun with a noon. Even the noon is dropped. There's no word in the dictionary of just ka that you will find. The ta is to refer to you or your action, but the kaf is not a word in and of itself. It's called balagha. It's called eloquence in the Quran. That what Allah is saying, and He's translating Luqman's words. Luqman probably didn't speak Arabic. He's translating Luqman's words to say, not only am I referring to a mustard seed, but I've even crossed off the waw and the noon to indicate to you, even in the text itself, that if there was something smaller than this, I would have mentioned it. Yani the most weightless thing, the lightest of action in your eyes, the glancing of your eyes, the lending of your ears, the speech that Allah says, oof, it's not even a word, it's a sound. Even that will be recorded with its intent. God says that if somebody even looks at their parents with stern eyes, that's not a word. It's a facial expression. God says even that will be recorded. This is the advice that a man leaves behind for his son. A man leaves for his daughter. This is what a will should be like. Ya bunayya, he continues. The first act I want to remind you of, aqim as-salah. Establish your prayer. My son, if there's anything that I can leave you with, let it be clear to you that this is what you will be taken to task for in your grave, firstly and foremostly. Not just pray, there's a difference. Praying is something you can do and may not do. But when you establish something, you don't let go of it. You remember that hadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he says regarding his shafa'ah, each and every one of us here realize that we fall short in our actions. Even when it comes to serving, we'll serve, hopefully with the most sincere of actions. But there might be a blemish even in that act. Maybe I was reciting and I was reading, and all of a sudden, for a moment, my intent changed to the ears of people. And what does he think of how I recited? And was she pleased with how I recited? Was the tune good in how I recited? Maybe when I was serving, I was expecting somebody to say thank you to me, and when they didn't, it hurt me. Clearly in the Quran, that's not the sincere way of giving and serving. It's very clear in the Quran that the principle of giving is that when I give you, I don't expect you even to say thanks in return or to give me anything back in return. That even if I give you and you take and you continue to walk, it shouldn't affect my heart and the sincerity of wanting to give you the next time either. Obviously, when you're nurturing children, it's different. You're going to discipline your child. I'm talking about when we serve one another. Here, Luqman says, first and foremost, you need to pray. Don't just pray, establish it. Make it part of your life. Make it such that you become inseparable from prayer. As we mentioned yesterday, Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam on the day of Ashura not only preferred prayer over the war, but preferred to pray in congregation over praying in solitude. Ya bunayya aqim as-salah. Establish prayer. Wa'mul bil-ma'ruf. Don't only pray because that's going to help you. Wa'mur bil-ma'ruf. You have a duty to society around you. That when you see something wrong, go and indicate it and point it out. Don't be ashamed that you're younger than him. Don't be ashamed that he's wealthier than you. That doesn't hold any barrier and any weight in the eyes of God. If wealth was going to bring about prestige and status, then the Prophet would have kept Khadija's wealth in order to propagate Islam. But this great, immaculate, perfect man gave it away. It's not that wealth is a bane in society. It's not that wealth is something that God has said stay away from. But clearly God has said that this wealth will be a test. So be careful how much you earn and how much you hoard. This same Prophet raises his hands and he says, Oh Allah, give Muhammad and Al Muhammad only that which suffices them. Don't give us more. If you give us more than we need, it's going to be very difficult for us in this life. We'll be held responsible and there'll be more questioning on us. And if you give us less, then life becomes very difficult. Oh my son, establish prayer. Enjoin good amongst one another. Wanha anil munkar. When you see something wrong, make it clear. Stop your society from moving and deviating away from that which is righteous. When you see your own brethren doing something wrong, be a man. Stand up and speak. Don't be a coward and speak in small circles. That's not the test of faith. The test of faith is when everybody wants to hear who's going to be the one to uphold the religion of God, a principled man who doesn't shake. You stand up. That's what Hussein ibn Ali did. That's why he only had 72 people. Wasbir. And then have patience ala ma asabaka. On all the trials and tribulations that will affect you. And we touched upon tribulations yesterday. Inna dhalika min azmil umur. This is from the most difficult things to uphold. It's not easy to establish prayer. It's not easy to be patient when you're tested. All of these things are difficult. But establish them and realize that this is not something easy that's going to happen. Imam Ali alayhi salam begins and he says, Min al-walid al-fan. From the father who is shortly to die. You know how Muawiyah begins? Muawiyah's wasiyah is a bit different too. Yazid. He says, "Oh my dear son, I have fastened the load of pain. I have removed all rebellion for you. I have straightened up matters for you. I have tamed the enemies from you. I have brought in the Arabs with their reins." Everything was about him. You know how Ali reminds his son about what life is? He says, "I am writing as a father who's alive, min al-walid al-fan, from a father who is going to die very soon." There was no indication that Imam was going to die after Siffin. But he says that this death, oh my son, has no terms and conditions. I want you to remember that even as I pen this will to you, as I'm moving my pen, I'm certain that I could die at any time. From a father who acknowledges the hardship of his times. When you speak to your parents, they will tell you, we had tests at our times. Life was difficult. Nobody comes around and says life was very easy. I had no difficulty. Life was never meant to be easy. The Imams tell us that rest, you want to sleep, leave it until the grave. Leave your rest until the grave. This world is for action. This world is for you and I to get closer to God. It's not a time to accumulate and hoard. It's not a time to go close to that which is dubious at work. Stay within His red lines. I write to you from a man who has turned away from life. He says, I haven't tasted any sweetness in this life. Everything in this life has a bitter taste to it. You love somebody, they pass away. You love wealth, you can't hold on to it. He says, who has submitted to the calamities of time. You know, however rich I became, however great my status was, however knowledgeable I became, oh Hassan, realize that I was not able to hold time. It was just moving away from me. With every breath that I took, I was getting closer to death. Oh my son, I want to start off my will by reminding you that this world is not a world to enjoy and be attached to. I write to you from a man who realizes the evils of this dunya. I'm not going to tell you about the beauties of this dunya. You'll enjoy them yourself. But I want to warn you of the evils of this dunya. And I write to you as a man who is living among the dead and is about to depart from them at any time. Doesn't the Imam say in Nahjul Balagha, in Khutbatul Muttaqeen, he says that when you see these people who are truly God-fearing, when you look at their bodies, it seems as if they're dead. They have these bags under their eyes, they're always looking tired, they don't overeat. These are people who don't indulge in the dunya because they're afraid of what's to come. They're afraid that if we hoard, we'll have more to question for. Imam will go on, and as we'll see tomorrow, as he now introduces himself to his son, he will then introduce his son. Now, when he introduces his son, he's not speaking only to Imam al-Hasan. You remember that hadith of the Prophet, Ana wa Ali abawa hadhil ummah, that me and Ali are fathers of this ummah. When the Imam speaks, although his son might be the addressee, it's to each and every one of us. When he speaks to his son and he says that you are one who has been taken by the desires of this dunya, he's not saying, Imam al-Hasan, you've been taken by the desires. This is for anyone who reads his will later on in life. Apart from the immaculate individuals that realize that this soul has enticed you into making you attached for this dunya, to this dunya. That's all you can see. But I want to remind you that before you see wealth, see death. Before you see jealousy, see death. Before you backbite somebody, see death. And if you can hold death as a lens in front of your eyes, then never will you make a decision that will go against you when you're buried in the grave. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, on the day of Ashura, he mentions many verses of the Quran. What I find, what I get bewildered by is when you read even the days following up to Imam arriving in Karbala. When Imam leaves Makkah, he recites a verse of Quran. When Imam is on his way towards Kufa, there's a verse of Quran mentioned. He recites this verse. When Imam on the day of Ashura is all alone, it says this is the verse that he recited. When Imam gave up his companions, another verse is recited. This man was the walking Quran. He had the Quran not only on his tongue but in his actions. He says about his companions on the day of Ashura, مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. From the believers, there are a group of men who are true to their commitment with God. They uphold their promise with God. They don't have feet which slip. You can't buy these men. You can't even buy their silence. Leave aside turning them against Hussein. If you tell them we'll give you governorship of entire cities, we don't want you to turn on Hussein. We just want you to be silent in front of that which is wrong. He says these are men, you can't even buy their silence. Even their silence is not for sale. They have committed to God that they will stand up for justice. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ. From this group of men are some who have passed away. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ. And there are those who are remaining. And as for those who remain, despite the fact that they've seen the death of all their companions, وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. They have not changed in the slightest. As Imam leaves Medina, he mentions this verse in Surah Al-Qasas. فَخَرَجَ مِنْهَا خَائِفًا يَتَرَقَّبُ. So he left fearful, anticipating. It tells you the state in which the family of Hussein must have been in. As he enters Makkah, he says, وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَنَ قَالَ عَسَى رَبِّي أَن يَهْدِيَنِي إِذَا هِدِيَنِي سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. He says, and when he directed himself towards Madian, he said, perhaps my Lord will guide me to a sound way. As Imam enters into Makkah, he is of two minds. He wants to see how the situation unfolds. He knows his final destination. If you look at his conversation with Salama in Medina, he tells Salama, oh my dear mother, I know the place I will die. I can even tell you who is going to kill me and the name of the land which I will pass away. I know this. But as he enters into Makkah, he's looking at the situation. It's time for Hajj. He enters Makkah, he begins to perform the Hajj, he enters into Ihram. He then meets his brother Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. And Muhammad tells him, oh my brother, I see you in a strange state. You've come out of Ihram. You've done the taqsir. You've changed it to Umrah. Where are you going? He says, I need to find a safe path because they're coming after my blood and I don't want any bloodshed in the house of God. So Muhammad ibn Hanafiya tells him, okay, then why don't you go to a remote place? Go to Yemen. Go to a remote part in the desert where they won't find you. If you go there, no one will be able to find you and trace your footsteps. You can live. Imam says that, let me ponder over it. The next morning, this same Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, he sees that the Imam has come out together with his horses, the camels and the family. They've packed and now they're leaving. And he comes and he holds the reins of the horses of the Imam. He says, did you not tell me that you will ponder over and think and contemplate over what I said to you? He says, oh my brother, last night in a dream I saw the Holy Prophet and he told me that, oh Hussein, Allah wishes to see you slaughtered in Karbala, in Iraq. So hurry up towards us. He says, oh my brother, the decision has been made. I am heading towards Iraq. As Imam leaves, he begins to move towards Kufa. He's intercepted once and he manages to have a small quarrel and that army moves away. He moves and a second time he finds people who have come from Kufa, come from Iraq. He asks them, he meets Farazdaq. And he tells him, tell me about the people of Iraq. And he says, oh Imam, their words are with you but their swords are against you. And Imam says, you've said the truth. He continues his journey in the desert, heading towards Kufa. And he sees what seems to be the ears of horses. They say from a distance it looks like palm trees. He turns to his companions and he says, what do you see? And they say, it's as if we can see palm trees, but we know this route. We know we've traveled this desert. There are no palm trees ahead. We fear that this is an army coming towards us from Kufa. Imam says, is there any place that we can move to towards shelter? Can we put our backs towards a mountain? And they tell him of a small hill. He goes and he pitches his tents against the hill. And soon Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi comes with 1,000 men and meets the Imam. Imam has pitched his tents, Hur has pitched his tents. Imam tells him, why have you come? He shows him a letter and he says, I have been given strict commands that when I come and intercept your cavalry, when I come to you and I find you, my only option is to arrest you and take you back to Kufa. I've been told not to kill you, but I've been told to arrest you and take you so that you can give bay'ah to Yazid. Imam says that there is no possibility that a man like me would give bay'ah to a man like him. He says, let me go. He says, oh Hussein, you cannot return to Medina. Oh Hussein, either you come to Kufa or you find a middle path. I don't want to shed your blood. Find a middle path so at least I'm excused of arresting you. Imam retreats to his tent. The time for Dhuhr comes and he realizes that these men that have come with Hur, they're sapped of energy. When Imam looks at them, these are men who have been traveling in the heat and their water has run out. This was a man who was from the lineage of the Prophet, a man whose heart had generosity inside. You know what he tells his men? He says, take the water skins, don't only feed the men, don't only nourish the men, but go to the horses and let the horses drink until the horses stop drinking water. Don't just give them a sip and move to the next one. Let the horses stop drinking, then move to the next one. Then there was a man who fell to the ground in front of Hussein. Hussein's telling him, put your camel down. He doesn't understand. Then Imam tells one of his companions, take a water skin. He points to the man and he says, drink. The man doesn't have energy to pick up the water skin. He narrates and he says that Hussein stood up from his place. He came to me. He picked up the water skin and he made me drink. The time for Dhuhr comes and Imam tells Hur, you can pray by yourselves and we will pray. We will pray in our congregation, you can pray in your congregation. Hur says, we would like to pray behind you. They join the congregation of the Imam. They pray Salatul Dhuhr. Imam retreats to his tent. After a while he comes out. He calls upon them. He says, you are the people who wrote to me. You told me to come to Kufa. I've brought my family. I don't desire war. If I wanted war, why would I bring my women folk with me and children? I've come because you promised me that I am your Imam. You gave me the covenant and the bay'ah. And Hur says, by Allah, we never wrote these letters. Imam turns to his companion and says, bring me those 2 sacks of letters. He brings them, he pours them out in front of the Imam. Letters are spilt on the desert. They read letter one by one. They read it to the enemies. Hur says, by Allah, we never wrote these letters to you. Imam retreats to his tent. The time for Asr comes. Imam tells his people, pack your bags, we're moving. The adhan is given. Imam leads the prayer. Again, Hur prays behind the Imam. Imam says, I'm heading towards Kufa. I'm heading towards Medina. He says, you can't go to Medina. Either I arrest you or you find a middle path. Now Imam chooses a middle path and Hur's cavalry is side by side with Imam al-Hussein's cavalry. As they're moving, a time comes when Imam sees a place. He comes down off his horse. He says, we stop here. He lifts up the sand and he smells it. And he says, this is the sand that my grandfather gave to Salama. This is the sand that I have been promised. He says, call the people of this land. I want to ask them. He says, tell me, O people, what is the name of this land? They say, this land is known as Aqar. This land is known as barren. He says, oh Allah, I seek refuge from you with that which is barren. He says, I was promised another name. Is there another name? They say this place has a village within, it's known as Nainawa. He says there's another name. I'm waiting for one more name, because I know when you say that name, I know that that's my final destination. They say, we've heard from our forefathers that this land is also known as Karbun wa Bala. He says, is this land known as Karbala? They say, this land is known as Karbala. He says, oh Allah, I seek protection from you from Karbun wa Bala. He turns to his men and he says, we pitch tent here because it's on this land where I will take my final breath. It's on this land that I will be made to be slaughtered whilst I'm hungry and thirsty. It's on this land that the Prophet promised me that, oh Hussein, your beard will be stained in the blood of your young child. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين فسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره.
حسین یا 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 حسین حسین یا حسین کربلا گئی آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی کربلا سب پڑھے مل کے کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی غم زدہ ہو گئی کل جہاں کی فضا کربلا آ گئی کربلا غم زدہ ہو گئی کل جہاں کی فضا کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی خاک کرب و بلا اپنے ہاتھوں میں لی شاہ کو اپنے خون کی جو خوشبو ملی دی صدا شاہ نے روک دو قافلہ کربلا آ گئی کربلا 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 چلتے چلتے جو رہے وار شہ کا رکا لاکھ چاہا مگر وہ نہ آگے بڑھا دی صدا شاہ نے روک دو قافلہ کربلا آ گئی غم زدہ ہو گئی کل جہاں کی فضا کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی باغ زہرا کا ویران ہوگا یہاں پیاسے مر جائیں گے سارے طفل و جوان ہوگا ظلم و ستم کا یہاں خاتمہ کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا کر گئی کربلا غم زدہ ہو گئی کل جہاں کی فضا کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی کربلا 6 مہینے کے اصغر کا ننھا گلا تیر سے اپنے دے گا جب حرملا امتحا ہوگا مقتل میں سب سے بڑا کربلا آ گئی کربلا غم زدہ ہو گئی کل جہاں کی فضا کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی کربلا آ گئی خیمے جل جائیں گے لوٹ پڑ جائے گی بیویوں پر مصیبت گزر جائے گی چادریں چھینیں گے جس گھڑی اشقیاء کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی غم زدہ ہو گئی کل جہاں کی فضا کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی جب تماچے لگائے گا شمر لئیں بالیاں چھینے گا بڑھ کے جس دم شخی پھر سکینہ پکارے گی ہائے چچا کربلا آ گئی کربلا غم زدہ ہو گئی کل جہاں کی فضا کربلا آ گئی کربلا کربلا آ گئی وہ عابد بیمار تھا وہ تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق امام حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام حسن یا حسین شبیر کے وہ لاڈلے شبیر کے لاڈلے ہے سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پلے سینے پہ جو شاہ کے پلے ہے جس کی ابا بن میں جلے جس کی ابا बन में जले मुंह पर तमाचों के निशान मौला हक इमाम हसन हुसैन मौला इमाम हसन हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كل وليك حجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في حادع الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى يا أم المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليكم يا أئمة البقي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي ابن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولى وابن مولى. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلطان أبا الحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرضا كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليك يا أختك فاطمة المعصومة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا ابن الزهراء أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.